So in our current lesson, we're going to talk about beliefs. I'm not talking about religious beliefs here. What I'm referring to here is our belief in something. I can do it, I can't do it. I understand math, I don't understand math. I have musical talent, I don't have musical talent. We have a lot of beliefs. So I'm going to talk to you a little bit about these. Now, beliefs are not things we are born with. We start to learn them later on at certain points. So how are beliefs formed? Let's think about it this way first. Let's imagine a table. A belief, just like a table usually has 4 legs, a belief also needs 4 legs to be formed. The first of these is knowledge, then environment, past references, and imagination. Now, let's start with knowledge. What does knowledge mean? Let's say you want to form a belief about success in a certain area. Maybe as a life coach, like I'll become a really good life coach, I'll reach a certain level of recognition, or I'll achieve a certain income, or I'll reach a certain number of clients for coaching. Now, first of all, in order to form your belief, reading the stories of people working in this field, how they started, how they progressed, will be one of the factors that shapes your belief. Because if you remember, I mentioned this to you in one of the lessons. When you listen to their life stories, since almost all of them have gone through the same paths you are on or will go through, reading about them will give you great strength on this journey. That's why the first thing you need to do is to read the books, and most importantly, the life stories of those whom you see as idols in this field, whether in the world or elsewhere. The first was knowledge. The second point that enables belief to form is our past references. What does this mean? In other words, if we've done something once, we believe we can do it again. Unfortunately, if we haven't been able to do it once, we believe we won't be able to do it again. Let me put it this way. For example, let's say what comes to my mind right now is getting into ice cold water. Cold water therapy is really popular these days, you know? People say, I could never do it, and so on. If you tried it once, got really cold, and got out after just dipping your feet in, it will be even harder for you to get in next time. Or skydiving or something similar, you know? But if you've done it once and succeeded, it's always easier to do it a second time. For example, let's say you wanted to quit smoking, you quit, and you never started again. This gives you the reference that I can overcome an addiction. The next thing that harms you, maybe it's related to eating or something else, I don't know. It becomes much easier for you to quit next time because you have a strong reference point. But let's say you tried and couldn't quit. This time it turns into a negative reference. That's why, for example, I always tell people who want to quit smoking, are you ready for this? Will you be able to maintain this decision to quit with determination? Will you be able to keep it up? If you're ready for this, then do it. If you're not ready and you try but start again, after a few days you might record something negative in your belief system. That's how it is. So every time you start something and leave it unfinished, you record a negative reference about your consistency. But when you start and keep going, you record a positive reference about your consistency. For example, I hear it a lot. I started playing the bolama, then quit. I started playing the violin, then quit. I started playing the drums, then quit. I just can't learn. But let's say someone starts an instrument, brings it to a certain level and plays it well. Then they develop this belief, I can play the others too. And that's usually how it is. People who play one instrument well usually play others too. They play several instruments. But those who always quit halfway because of this reference example always have an inner voice saying, you're going to quit this one halfway too. You'll leave it unfinished. So if we examine these two topics, these two pieces of information and references in the formation of our beliefs, what will we do? We will read as much information as possible. And if we're starting something, we'll tell ourselves this, I will never quit until I carry it through to a certain point. And if I feel that I'm not ready, I'll say, I won't start now. Because that affects our belief in our future, new beginnings. Third is environment. Environment. Yes, I've already made references to the environment from time to time in other lessons as well. We talked about 6 people in our environment. We resemble our environment. Our environment affects us. We see life the way the people around us see it. If we see successful people, we also become successful people ourselves, often without even realizing it. In the past, they did an interview with Aristotle Onassis, who was one of the richest people in the world. By the way, Aristotle Onassis was also born in Izmir. But then he goes to America. He says something that really caught my attention. He says, rather than living in a villa in a poor neighborhood, live in an attic in a rich neighborhood. Then he explains why he said this. He says, let your eyes get used to it. For example, he says that when you live in a rich neighborhood, the cafes there, the way people dress, their perspectives, all of these start to shape you accordingly. And he says, without you even realizing it, that environment will shape you. Now let's think about it this way. When we are surrounded by people who have a positive outlook, who are motivated towards success in different ways, they naturally start to influence us. That's why we should always remember this saying of Mevlana. He says, pay attention to whom you spend time with, to whom you befriend, because the nightingale leads you to the rose, while the crow leads you to the dump, he says. And finally, we come to the fourth pillar that forms belief. Our fourth pillar is imagination. What does imagination mean? It's this. This too, our imagination, the brain doesn't know the difference between what it sees and what it imagines. That's why, for example, sometimes you want to achieve something. There is no information about it. There is no one around you who has succeeded. You have no past references. So how will you form your belief? With imagination, that's how. Now I'm going to tell you a beautiful story. The 1950s. There is a runner named Roger Bannister, and this runner wants to run a mile, which is about 1600 meters. In America, running a mile is a famous thing. Mile races are well known. He wants to run it in under 4 minutes. But no one has ever run a mile in under 4 minutes before. In fact, the medical authorities of the time said that the human body is not suited to running a mile in under 4 minutes, and so on and so forth. Now, if we look at it, he needs to form a belief, right? Is there any evidence that he can run a mile in under 4 minutes? No. No one has done it. So is there any past reference? No. He himself hasn't done it either. Is there anyone around who has done it? No. So none of the factors that would create belief are present. So what is there? Only imagination is left? For months, every day, he goes to the track and actively practices visualization, imagining himself running a mile in under 4 minutes. It goes on for months and months and months and months. And in the 1950s, I think it was 54, he makes history by running a mile in under 4 minutes. Yes, this is a big deal. But the interesting part starts afterwards. For centuries, or at least since those races began, no one had ever run a mile in under 4 minutes, right? After Roger Bannister ran it, the next year 13 more runners did it, the second year 50 runners did it, and by the third year, over 100 people started running it. What happened? What happened? Here's what happened. When Roger Bannister ran it, a new understanding emerged. Yes, it is possible to run this. So once there was someone around who managed to run it, and once people started running, what was once thought impossible began to be achieved. This is how important imagination is. And what happened next? The environment started to influence other people. For example, Chai, if I remember the history correctly, all the way until the late 1980s, we actually had absolutely no success at all in the field of competitive weightlifting. Then we brought in Naim Suleimanoglu, a Turkish athlete, originally a Bulgarian athlete of Turkish descent, as a naturalized athlete. Naim Suleimanoglu starts training together with Turkish athletes in Turkey. He wins medals for Turkey. Then what happens? Suddenly, Turkey starts achieving success in weightlifting, and even now, one of the best medals Turkey wins at the Olympics is in weightlifting. What happened? We talked about environment, right? Naim Suleimanoglu came. He actually trained in the very same gym with them back in the day. He ate the same food as them. They saw him in their environment, and this is still how we win medals. Why wasn't there any before him? Now you know this. So, we will sit down and look at these 4 legs of the table, both for ourselves and for the person we are coaching. Which specific element is missing here, and which one can we strengthen or reinforce? Is it our foundational knowledge, our surrounding environment, our past references, or our imagination? We will use our technique on these, both for yourself and for others. And you will definitely see the impressive results unfold naturally anyway, over time. Goodbye. See you in another lesson.